Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me in our reading today. We are continuing with our fairy tales series, and these are stories written by Hans Christian Andersen. Our story today is the Tinder Box, and it is a fairy tale. And as you know, a fairy tale is actually a fiction story with fictional characters. Some of the characteristics of the fairy tale is you will have some magic. You will have a change in the character's character, which means the character's behavior. For example, a bad character might switch his behavior to become really good. You might also have a character who had a spell on him, and that spell would only be broken by a good person. So you always have a good person, a bad person. Obviously, you will have a problem. You will have some magic, a fairy godmother, maybe some fairies, maybe a spell of some sort. Most of the time, the story will begin with something like once upon a time and ends with happily ever after. Sometimes they do that, and of course, that's that giveaway. It's a fairy tale, and sometimes the story will tell you, there was a witch, and you know for sure that's a fairy tale. Okay, ready? Here we go. The Tinder Box. A soldier came marching along the high road. 1, 2, 1, 2. He had his knapsack on his back and his sword at his side, for he had been to the wars and he was on his way home now. He met an old witch on the road. She was so ugly. Her lower lip hung right down onto her chin. She said, "Good evening, soldier. What a nice sword you've got, and such a big knapsack. You are a real soldier. You shall have as much money as ever you like." "Thank you kindly, you old witch," said the soldier. "Do you see that big tree?" said the witch, pointing to a tree close by. "It is hollow inside. Climb up to the top and you will see a hole into which you can let yourself down, right down under the tree. I will tie a rope around your waist so that I can haul you up again when you call." "What am I to do down under that tree?" asked the soldier. "Well, fetch money," said the witch. "You must know that when you get down to the bottom of the tree, you will find yourself in a wide passage. It's quite light there, for there are over 100 blazing lamps. You will see 3 doors, which you can open, for the keys are there. If you go into the first room, you will see a big box in the middle of the floor. Ah, excuse me. A dog is sitting on top of it. He has eyes as big as saucers. But you needn't mind that. I will give you my blue checked apron, which you can spread out on the floor. Then go quickly forward, take up the dog, and put him on my apron. Open the box and take out as much money as ever you like. It is all copper, but if you like silver better, go into the next room. There you will find a dog with eyes as big as millstones. But never mind that. Put him on my apron and take the money. Now, if you prefer gold, you can have it too, and as much as you can carry. If you go into the third room, but the dog sitting on that box has eyes each as big as the round tower. He is a dog indeed, as you may imagine, but don't let it trouble you. You only have to put him onto my apron, and then he won't hurt you, and you can take as much gold out of the box as you like. "That's not so bad," said the soldier. "But what am I to give you, old witch? For you'll want something, I'll be bound." "No," said the witch, "not a single penny do I want. I only want you to bring me an old tinder box that my grandmother forgot the last time she was down there." "Well, tie the rope round my waist," said the soldier. "Here it is," said the witch, "and here is my blue checked apron." Then the soldier climbed up the tree, let himself slide down the hollow trunk, and found himself, as the witch had said, in the wide passage where the many hundred lamps were burning. Now he opened the first door. Ah, there sat the dog with eyes as big as saucers staring at him. "You're a nice fella," said the soldier, as he put him onto the witch's apron and took out as many pennies as he could cram into his pockets. Then he shut the box and put the dog on top of it again and went into the next room. Hello! There sat the dog with the eyes as big as millstone. "You shouldn't stare at me so hard. You might get a pain in your eyes." Then he put the dog on the apron. But when he saw all the silver in the box, he threw away all the coppers and stuffed his pockets and his knapsack with silver. Then he went on to the third room. Oh, how horrible! That dog really had two big eyes as big as the round tower, and they rolled round and round like wheels. "Good evening," said the soldier, saluting, for he had never seen such a dog in his life. But after looking at him for a bit, he thought, "That will do," and he lifted him down onto the apron and opened the chest. Preserve us! What a lot of gold! He could buy the whole of Copenhagen with it, and all the sugar pigs from the cake woman, all the tin soldiers, whips, and rocking horses in the world. That was money indeed. Now the soldiers threw away all the silver he had filled his pockets and his knapsack with, and put gold in its place. Yes, he crammed all his pockets, his knapsack, his cap, and his boots so full that he could hardly walk. Now he really had got a lot of money. He put the dog back on top of the box, shut the door, and shouted up through the tree, "Howl me up, you old witch! Have you got the tinder box?" "Oh, to be sure," said the soldier. "I had quite forgotten it." And he went back to fetch it. The witch howled him up, and there he was, standing on the high road again, with his pockets, boots, knapsack, and cap full of gold. "What do you want the tinder box for?" asked the soldier. "That's no business of yours," said the witch. "You've got the money. Give me the tinder box." "Rubbish," said the soldier. "Tell me directly what you want with it, or I will draw my sword and cut off your head." "I won't," said the witch. Then the soldier cut off her head. There she lay, but he tied all the money up in her apron, slung it on his back like a pack, put the tinder box in his pocket, and marched off to town. It was a beautiful town, and he went straight to the finest hotel, ordered the grandest rooms and all the food he liked best, for he was a rich man, now that he had so much money. Certainly the servant who had to clean his boots thought they were very funny old things for such a rich gentleman, but he had no time yet to buy any new ones. The next day he bought new boots and fine clothes. The soldier now became a fine gentleman, and the people told him all about the grand things in the town and about their king and what a lovely princess his daughter was. "Where is she to be seen?" asked the soldier. "Oh, you can't see her at all," they all said. "She lives in a great copper castle surrounded with walls and towers. Nobody but the king dare go in and out, for it has been prophesied that she will marry a common soldier, and the king does not like that. I should like to see her well enough, thought the soldier, but there was no way of getting leave for that. He now led a very merry life, went to theaters, drove about in the king's park, and gave away a lot of money to the poor people, which was very nice of him, for he remembered how disagreeable it used to be not to have a penny in his pocket. Now he was rich, wore fine clothes, and had a great many friends, who all said what a nice fellow he was, a thorough gentleman, and he liked to be told that. But as he went on spending money every day, and his store was never renewed, he at last found himself with only 2 pence left. Then he was obliged to move out of fine rooms. He had to take a tiny little attic up under the roof, clean his own boots and mend them himself with a darning needle. None of his friends went to see him because there were far too many stairs. On dark evening, when he had not even enough money to buy a candle with, he suddenly remembered that there was a little bit in the old tinder box he had brought out of the hollow tree when the witch helped him down. He got out the tinder box with the candle end in it and struck fire. As the sparks flew out from the flint, the door burst open, and the dog with eyes as big as saucers, which he had seen down under the tree, stood before him and said, "What does my lord command?" "By heaven," said the soldier, "this is a nice kind of tinder box, for I can get whatever I want like this. Get me some money," he said to the dog, and away it went. It was back in a twinkling, with a big bag full of pennies in its mouth. Now the soldier saw what a treasure he had in the tinder box. If he struck once, the dog which sat on the box of copper came. If he struck twice, the dog on the silver box came. And if he struck 3 times, the one from the box of gold. He now moved down to the grand rooms and got his fine clothes again, and then all his friends knew him once more and liked him as much as ever. Then he began to think, after all, it's a curious thing that no man can get a sight of the princess. Everyone says she is so beautiful, but what is the good of that when she always has to be shut up in that big copper palace with all the towers? Can I not somehow manage to see her? Where is my tinder box? Then he struck the flint, and whisk came the dog with eyes as big as saucers. "It certainly is the middle of the night," said the soldier, "but I am very anxious to see the princess, if only for a single moment." The dog was out of the door in an instant, and before the soldier had time to think about it, he was back again with the princess. There she was, fast asleep on the dog's back, and she was so lovely that anybody could see that she must be a real princess. The soldier couldn't help it. He was obliged to kiss her, for he was a true soldier. Then the dog ran back again with the princess. But in the morning, when the king and queen were having breakfast, the princess said that she had such a wonderful dream about a dog and a soldier. She had ridden on the dog's back, and the soldier had kissed her. "That's a pretty tale," said the queen. After this, an old lady in waiting had to sit by her bed at night to see if this was really a dream. The soldier longed so intensely to see the princess again that at night the dog came to fetch her. He took her up and ran off with her as fast as he could, but the old lady in waiting put on her galoshes and ran just as fast behind them. When she saw that they disappeared into a large house, she thought, "Now I know where it is," and made a big cross with chalk on the gate. Then she went home and lay down, and presently the dog came back too with the princess. When the dog saw that there was a cross on the gate, he took a bit of chalk too and made the crosses on all the gates in the town. Now, this was very clever of him, for the lady in waiting couldn't possibly find the gate when there were crosses on all the gates. Early next morning, the king and queen, the lady in waiting, and all court officials went to see where the princess had been. There it is, said the king when he saw the first door with the cross on it. No, my dear husband, it is there, said the queen, who saw another door with a cross on it. But there is one, and there's another, they all cried out. They soon saw it was hopeless to try and find it. Now, the queen was a very clever woman. She knew more than how to drive in a chariot. She took her big gold scissors and cut a large piece of silk into small pieces and made a pretty little bag which she filled with fine grains of buckwheat. Then she tied it on the back of the princess. And when that was done, she cut a little hole in the bag so the grains could drop out all the way wherever the princess went. At night, the dog came again, took the princess on his back, and ran off with her to the soldier, who was so fond of her that he longed to be a prince so that he might have her for his wife. The dog never noticed how the grain dropped out all along the road from the palace to the soldier's window, where he ran up the wall with the princess. In the morning, the king and queen easily saw where their daughter had been, and they seized the soldier and threw him into the dungeon. There he lay. Oh, how dark and tiresome it was. And then one day they said to him, "Tomorrow you are to be hanged." It was not amusing to be told that, especially as he had left his tinder box behind him at the hotel. In the morning, he could see through the bars in the little window that people were hurrying out of the town to see him hanged. He heard the drums and saw the soldiers go marching along. All the world was going. Among them was a shoemaker's boy in his leather apron and slippers. He was in such a hurry that he lost one of his slippers, and it fell close under the soldier's window, where he was peeping through the bars. "I say, you, boy, don't be in such a hurry," said the soldier to him. "Nothing will happen until I get there. But if you will run to the house where I used to live and fetch me my tinder box, you shall have a penny." The boy was only too glad to have the penny and tore off to get the tinder box, gave it to the soldier, and yes, now we shall hear. Outside the town, a high scaffold had been raised, and the soldiers were drawn up round it, as well as crowds of townspeople. The king and the queen sat upon a beautiful throne exactly opposite the judge and all the counselors. The soldier mounted the ladder, but when they were about to put the rope round his neck, he said that, before undergoing his punishment, a criminal was always allowed the gratifications of a harmless wish, and he wanted very much to smoke a pipe, as it would be his last pipe in this world. The king couldn't deny him this, so the soldier took out his tinder box and struck fire once, twice, 3 times, and there were all the dogs, the ones with eyes like saucer, the one with eyes like millstones, and the one whose eyes were as big as the round tower. "Help me! Save me from being hanged!" cried the soldier. And then the dogs rushed at the soldiers and the counselor. They took one by the legs, another by the nose, and threw them up many fathoms into the air. And when they fell down, they were all broken to pieces. "I won't!" cried the king. But the biggest dog took both him and the queen and threw them after all the others. Then the soldiers became alarmed, and the people shouted, "Oh, good soldier, you shall be our king and marry the beautiful princess." So they conducted the soldier to the king's chariot, and all 3 dogs danced along in front of him and shouted, "Hooray!" The boys all put their fingers in their mouth and whistled, and the soldiers presented arms. The princess came out of the copper palace and became queen, which pleased her very much. The wedding took place in a week, and the dogs all had seats at the table where they sat staring with all their eyes. The end. Thank you for joining me. See you next time. Our next story is going to be Great Claws and Little Claws. See you soon.